back to being a student at the University of Kentucky, I didn't really know what I was going to do for a while, and I decided to move more into arts and business and went towards a degree of arts administration. And with that degree, you had to take at least one class in each kind of artistic medium. And truthfully, I kept putting photography off. I didn't take it until my last semester at UK. And it ended up being the one medium that I actually really had a connection to. Upon graduation, I picked up and moved to Key West, Florida. I started taking photography again there, straight from the beginning. And I'm happy to say I had like 4 different amazing teachers in photography at that small community college. I credit Key West as being like just this super formative time in my life as an artist. I liked to play around with toy cameras, big time. And I was starting to experiment with the Holga, which was then a $15 camera. But essentially it's just a medium format, which meant a larger negative, plastic lens camera. Lots of light leaks, all that stuff. So I took those cameras and that film with me on my trip to Haiti, and just that was the camera that I used. That was way pre-digital. You know, you can only get 12, maybe 14 images, depending on the format that you're photographing per roll. So I just think back then, I felt like you really sort of, I don't know, you stopped before you took a photograph because it was sort of precious. And I did have a real connection with people there. That was part of my experience there. Once I got back to the States and processed that film, I just so happened to be taking a class in alternative photographic processes. So it just sort of came about, you know. So I was enlarging these negatives to the size of the eventual print. So I was making images up to like 8.5 by 11 inches, and my negatives were that big. And then I sensitized watercolor paper with chemicals that were used back in the day to expose images in the sun. So yeah, all those images were exposed in the sun, contact prints. So it was kind of this modern day version of working primitively. I won the South Florida Cultural Consortium Award for that very early on in my career. I think it was the second thing I ever applied for, which was really it blew me away, honestly. And it really made me realize, like, yeah, hone in on that and good things can happen. Out there in the world, I will just photograph what I'm drawn to. And largely I'll photograph them several times to get multiple type exposures and angles. And I may not do something with that image for a while. This image over here that I've been working with, I shot that like 3 years ago. But at that point, like, I hadn't won the Al Smith Fellowship. I didn't have the equipment or the money to buy a larger printer at that time that enabled me to even kind of go into this exploration of digital photo transfers that I'm now able to fully explore. So yeah, I've been doing more mixed media photo-based photography work the past 5 years. So, and I guess that was really sort of always my story, just with more traditional photographic processes. I loved the darkroom, but I really loved kind of the experimentation that could be done inside of a darkroom. I feel like I'm sort of emulating that currently in my digital image transfer techniques. And so I've been able to build up layers and textures that way. and have really enjoyed that quite a bit. It takes time. Sometimes you feel like, as a photographer, you take a picture and it's sort of done. But when you add these elements of mixed media to it, you don't always know where to stop. It felt really good. It sort of replaced that meditative experience I would get being inside the darkroom. So encaustic wax is an ancient Greek technique of working with melted wax. So the wax hardens and cools instantly. So I'll use a heat gun to kind of keep it molten. You can do it so many ways, and what's beautiful about the medium is that it can look so different. So yeah, I mean, initially I'll start with a digital image that I'll print, and then I'll attach that to some kind of hardened surface, generally like a wood substrate. And then I'll start by layering just sort of like clear encaustic wax over top of it. From there, I can build on top of that with other layers and wax. And then I'll generally add like some oil pastels or image transfers over top of that. The images up here, these were from the series from which I was selected to be the Al Smith Fellowship recipient. So I called it a photo resination. I was adding resin to images. I would group images together that maybe weren't really initially, shot at the same time or even much of a connection, but ones that sort of tell a story in a sense. So it's a bit of a mini series that you as the viewer can drive. I sort of feel like with this direction that I'm going into, and I'm sort of creating one image by using multiple exposures of the same subject. So, I mean, the registration of the image doesn't always match up. So there's sort of this three-dimensionality that comes with that. So we are at Highlands Community Campus. When I came here, it was Christ Evangelical Church. There's a soup kitchen of sorts downstairs. They do contra dancing here and Tai Chi. There's just so much that is being given back to the community and so much life that has been brought to the space here. I have done some great travels. I'm very fortunate for that. I traveled to West Africa. I've been to Iran twice, where I camped with nomads. And I've been to Indonesia. And those are amazing experiences. You learn so much about yourself, about other people. You're exposed to so much. I feel like I'm stimulated as an artist, in what I'm seeing, what I choose to capture, that nth of a second that, ends up on my digital sensor or whatever at this point. Yeah, I think it's really defined who I am, too. It keeps me adventurous, for sure. I was just ready for a change. And I had been in Key West for 16 years. And so really, I moved back just to kind of slow down and to focus more on what it is that I'm passionate about in life. And I've been able to do that here because cost of living is so affordable. My expenses were insanely reduced upon moving back. And it's been great. I've been able to travel too, and it's a good home base to jump off of. My connection to the landscape is stronger than it's ever been upon my return here, for sure. And yeah, that's where sort of my direction has been creatively. I think you get so much more than you even know when you're in a natural environment. So it's been nice to come back to that, for sure. I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm gonna hopefully be attuned to recognize opportunities when they present themselves to me, or even directions creatively. Definitely, I would love to incorporate more travel, and Probably more kind of educational work within the community. And other than that, hopefully a lot more exhibition time. So we'll see. There's lots of gardening and house renovation and cooking and all that other stuff going on in between. So we'll see what happens.